Hey everybody, this is Andy Hall, and we're doing something new. I'm doing this lovely show called Best Advice Ever, where guests come on and we talk about the best advice they ever got. Today, our first person ever, our first guest is Philip Kapitan. He is the podcaster from Hangover Haze. I've been on his show, Hangover Haze, and he's been on my show, the Naked Diner podcast. And so thought it would be great for Phil to come in and we would just talk about the best advice he ever got. Phil, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Andrew. How are you?
Happy birthday, my friend. I heard it's belated.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, my birthday was last Saturday and I celebrated in style.
And how did you celebrate in style, my friend?
I just went down to the store, bought a huge Delmonico steak, some shrimp, some bacon, cooked it all together and ate it like a glutton.
Oh, that's sweet. You know, I had this great steak the other day. I went to a restaurant with my girlfriend, and it made me so happy. I usually don't smile. I'm not a big smiling person, but my face glowed so much that my girlfriend's like, "What are you doing with your face? That doesn't." It's like, I think I might be happy. I don't know.
It's a foreign experience.
It's Abby normal. That's what it is. Hey, you just graduated. Oh, no, you didn't graduate, but you just finished your first semester too, right?
Yeah. I just finished up my first semester back to college after years and years of not going, and I did pretty well overall. I got A's in everything except for statistics class, which I'm just grateful that I even fucking passed. So
statistics is a brutal topic.
Yes, p hat and alpha and just like so many different things. I'm glad to forget it, to be honest. I know I'm not going to, because it's going to be utilized in psychology quite a bit, but
regression towards the mean.
That's right. There you go. You know exactly what it is.
Regression towards the mean. That actually comes up every once in a while in conversation with me, because, sometimes people do really well, and then you're thinking, wow, this dude's doing great all the time. And then no, just kind of at a peak right now, and he's going back. Yeah. So how's your podcast doing these days?
I mean, it's good. It's I still haven't really focused as much on getting guests on as I used to. Just between work, school, and then doing the weekly. It's become more of a weekly monologuist bitch fest, if you want to call it that.
I heard you have some issues with Game of Thrones peoples.
Oh, it's these people who are just feeling like HBO owes them something. There's a petition out now where hundreds of thousands of people are signing it to say they need to redo season 8. And it's like, where'd you get this entitled fucking mentality that they owe you anything? First of all, if you pay attention to the show, if you pay attention to how George R.R. Martin writes, he takes the fantasy trope, the whole, paradigm of the fantasy epic, and flips it on its head anyway. So to sit there and think, oh, well, they've taken all these characters that they built up morally and then cast them down. It's like, yeah, that's the fucking point of the show. I don't know. It just.
I think people are going to be unhappy with endings regardless, because, it's like you're breaking up with someone.
Right.
I just watched The Sopranos from beginning to end.
I did that myself. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, speaking as a middle-aged guy, I can definitely sympathize with Tony far better than like years ago when it first came on. Because, it's all about him trying to juggle all these problems and dealing with getting older and everything, and his kids getting older. I might be one of the people in the minority who liked how it ended. I thought it was a very smart ending.
Yeah. And non-committal, but also kind of like opens up conversation for what could have happened.
Yeah, exactly. So, life in itself can be very unfulfilling. And I think that's one of the themes of The Sopranos. It's like, you're never going to get your whole cake and you're never going to eat it too.
Right.
And, how you die or how it ends is going to reflect that. You're never going to get a bow tied on it.
Yeah. And it's never going to be quite the ideal that you hope that it would be. It's
Right. I feel like we're segueing into the best advice you ever got. Now, before we get into the actual advice itself, let me ask you, who actually gave you the advice?
Well, I would have to say that it was probably my 6th grade English teacher, Mrs. Blunt, and that was her name, Mrs. Blunt. There were many jokes made.
Right.
But yeah, I would have to say she probably gave me the best advice. And do you want me to just go into it and start talking about it, or?
Now, did she give it to you or did she give it to the class?
She gave it to me directly.
Oh, really? So
Yes.
was it in class or was it like after class or before class? How did
Well,
that?
yeah, I guess I'll set it up for you.
Yeah. Let's do the setup. Yeah.
Basically, I paid attention in class, was fairly good in class. I've always been, I don't know, a decent writer of some merit, I suppose. And she noticed that I started to pick up reading and would argue with people about different points of what the text was about. And one day I came into class, and this is funny that you wished me happy birthday, because I swear this is how it went down. I went into class early in the morning, and because she saw me in the hallway, and she said, "Phil, I have something for you. Come see me before homeroom." And so I went down to her class, and I was like, I thought I was in trouble because I was a troublemaker. So, so I was like, oh boy, here we go. And I go in, and she hands me 3 books. She gave me one book was short stories by O. Henry, and the other 2 were the complete volume of the 2-volume set of The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. And I was just like, she hands them to me. She says, "I notice you've been reading a lot. I notice that you have a mind toward thinking and something like that." And she said, "I just wanted to contribute to your journey in life with reading." And I was like, "How did you know it was my birthday?" And she looked at me and she said, "I had no idea. It's your birthday today?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's my birthday today."
Wow.
Yeah, very, very odd. And it was like one of those first, I don't know, things where you notice that sometimes the universe is pushing you in a direction, or
you can hear the Twilight Zone music playing in the background.
I was just like, what is happening here? Hopefully my glasses don't break. But
oh, good.
But yeah, her advice, was essentially read. Always read. You can always rely on books for knowledge, for I don't know, solace when you need it. Just the various lessons of the past are there, and you can, as long as you can figure out how to intuit those lessons, you should be able to implement them in your own life in some way. So yeah, it was ever since then I have been a ravenous reader. Like I currently I think I'm reading 5 different books.
That's impressive, because I can only read through one book at a time.
Well, hey,
without
a lot of people won't even read a magazine, much less a book. So
now, do you always carry a book with you?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Oh, that's smart, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not one of those people who likes to waste time standing in line thinking about nothing or staring at my phone. I'd rather open up a book.
I was going to say, it sounds like you're the guy in the checkout line who's reading something of substance and not just the Inquirer.
Yes.
Like a book.
Yeah, like for instance, the one that I've been carrying around lately is what is it? The At the Existentialist Cafe, which was a book that came out I think a couple years ago by Sarah Blakewell, I think, and it's all about the rise of existentialism in Europe from as far back. She kind of relates some of it to Hegel, Husserl, Heidegger, into Jean-Paul Sartre, Simone de Beauvoir, Maurice Merleau-Ponty, and a few others, Levinas, and it's a really enlightening, fun read. It's not like a slog, like trying to read through Being in Nothingness or Being in Time.
Right.
It's not a philosophical treatise. It's a nice biographical overview of existentialism. So
Sure.
yeah, that's my carrying around book of late.
Did kids give you any crap?
Oh,
Because
absolutely.
you're. Tell me
Oh,
about that.
yeah. I mean, um, called a nerd, a geek, all those different monikers that I now hold in high esteem, and I'm proud to have been. But at the time, you don't want to be the socially awkward kid over in the corner reading. But
Right.
I also, through reading, or at least through kind of some of the lessons of reading, figured out early on that knowledge is power, that whole ideal. And that can mean a lot of different things. I think that can get diluted into people believe that, oh, if I have enough knowledge, I'll have the power to run things or rule things. I don't think that's what it is. I think it's more of knowledge of yourself, knowledge how to live, just that type of stuff.
So,
For
what book
instance,
do you think? What book do you think helped you live?
oof, that's a good, that's a really good question. I guess the first, the first book that I ever read that really, really impacted me in kind of a transcendental way, to make me feel differently about my life overall, was probably the Tao Te Ching.
Oh yeah, the book of power.
The Book of the
What
Way,
is it? The
the
book of
book
the way. That's right.
by Lao Tzu. And the way that came about was, I worked at a tobacco store, and I think I was in my early 20s, probably 23. So going through kind of my first real existential crisis at the time, part-time, broke, drinking too much, that whole thing, writing shitty poetry.
Right.
My supervisor, thankfully, this guy Jack, he was like just a really uh, amiable kind of guy, and also really intelligent, probably 6-7 years older than me. So he kind of like saw some of the stuff that he'd gone through, and we'd get to talking about the meaning of life and existence, consciousness, morality, all that stuff. And I remember one day he asked me, he said, "What's your abstract purpose?" And I to this day, I'm still struggling with that question. I'm kind of like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he loaned me his copy of the Tao Te Ching, the Stephen Mitchell translation, which is a fairly Americanized translation, but
Sure.
the way he did it was really, really clever. It's very poetic in its reading. And when I read it the first time all the way through all 86 books. It's just, they're little chapters, books,
Yeah.
book 1, book 2, whatever. And I read it all the way through just sitting in bed, and I just was blown away because just the simplicity of it, yet the I don't know, just like I said, the transcendental quality that it evoked within me, just threw me off. I had never felt a book take me like that. I'd felt emotional about books before, getting emotionally invested in characters, and but never had I had anything really, I don't know, just shift something inside me and realize that part of the best parts of living are the fact that we'll die.
Well, that's deep. Right
Yeah,
there.
it really threw me for a loop at the time, and it's something I still to this day, like I said, still kind of like struggle with and try and assess and analyze. But yeah, I would say that was probably the most impactful to my inner self.
Sure. Sure.
How about you?
Me, in terms of a book.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you. Well, I can tell you the book that I'm reading through right now. It's a book on Stalin. Believe it or
Okay.
not.
That
Right.
guy, he was a classy guy.
he was very successful in what he was doing.
That's true.
You can make definitely a good point that Stalin was far more successful than any of the dictators
Yeah,
at his time.
in the most ruthless and awful ways.
Ruthless, awful body count,
Yep.
longevity. He was numero uno in that way. But in terms of books that, I mean, speaking as an atheist, I would still say that the Bible probably has made the biggest influence on me. I still quote the Bible. It's like a knee-jerk reaction.
That was the book you said that you would recommend to me when you were on my show.
Okay, so I'm good that I'm consistent then, sir.
Yeah, and I still am like thrown by it a little bit, though I do understand it.
Yeah, I think that understanding Western culture, I think Shakespeare and the Bible are the two real cornerstones.
Yeah.
To really appreciate a lot of the references from anything that you see in media and books and movies, TV shows. Yeah, because those two references just pop up everywhere.
Yeah, I mean they're probably the two most referenced texts that we have in the Western culture. So
yeah. So do you know whatever happened to your sixth grade English teacher?
I went back when I remember when I was in high school. I went back and me and a couple friends. I forget why we had to go back to the middle school. And we went and visited her, hugged her, said hi, things like that. But beyond that, no, you know how life is. You just kind of drift out. And she was still teaching. She was one of the best English teachers I ever had. She made it really fun and interesting, and you could pretty much pick like whatever you wanted to read as long as you took it seriously.
Right.
As opposed to like giving you a list of 5 books that you had to choose from, and for like summer reading and all that type of stuff. But,
well, that's an interesting point that you brought up about a list of books. What do you think if you were going to recommend to someone what books they should, like let's say rattle 3 or 5 books that they should be acquainted with?
I would say for sure you should definitely read Douglas Adams' The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, all 5 books.
Great stuff.
Yeah, I have the compendium of or the anthology or whatever, the 5 books. It's even the title's funny, a trilogy in 5 parts.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But that's one of those few books that one of the few writers I've ever been able to read and actually laugh out loud while reading. Which
I laughed out loud several times, and you're right. He's one of the few dudes.
Yeah, like him.
That'll do that.
Joseph Heller with Catch-22 maybe could do it, and then Kurt Vonnegut.
Yeah.
Pretty much, I would say if you want to throw something else on the list, pick a Kurt Vonnegut book. Maybe everyone would say, Slaughterhouse-Five, but I would probably be more inclined to say Breakfast of Champions or Sirens of Titan. Those are 2 of my favorites of his. Cat's Cradle, of course, is great. But then you should read any poetry book by Charles Bukowski, one of my favorite writers, period. And just to throw something else in there, that's a good question. Dostoevsky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say I have yet to read The Brothers Karamazov, but I'm told it's basically the greatest book of the 20th century, or 19th century, I suppose. Right. But one of the greatest writers ever. I just did a huge casebook study of his notes from Underground for English class this past semester and crushed that. But
with your background, are you an English major? Is this your path?
No, I'm a psychology major. I wanted to be a writer my whole life for the longest time. I wanted to be an artist of some sort for the longest time, some sort of voice, I suppose. But somewhere I realized that to be a great writer, you have to want to do the work. You have to be like in love with writing. And while I love to write, I wouldn't say I'm in love with writing to the extent that I'm willing to sit down and actually hammer out the pages. I like to dash off fun blog posts or poems, but to actually sit and slog through, 500 pages, I don't know that I have it in me, to be honest. And I fell prey to the common problem of comparing myself to all the greats.
Oh, well, I think there's some advice someone could tell about that.
Yeah, there's plenty.
Say about that.
Yeah, there's plenty. Don't do that. It's not good.
Well, it's one of those things that people talk about, that you can't compare yourself to anybody else. But,
Right.
Man, we are hardwired. My Boston accent's coming out. We are hardwired to compare ourselves with people more successful than us. There's no doubt
True.
about that.
I mean, and, I went to art school for a little while to do painting and sculpture, and the whole thing you do is you do master copies.
Mhm.
And even great writers have done that. I think Hunter S. Thompson sat down and typed out a bunch of Shakespeare or something, or maybe that was Henry Miller. I can't remember, but so it's good to utilize people who are better than you in the beginning stages.
Yeah, definitely.
But you have to find your own voice and break away, and then also accept that your own voice isn't the same, so you can't compare them anymore, which is, I guess, something I've always struggled with. It's tough. I have a lot of self-doubt. I just actually, a buddy of mine, I did a painting for him. He asked me to do this big abstract for him, and I did it, and it took a few months to do, and then I called him and I said, yeah, it's done. And when I was done with it, I was excited. I told him, it'll take a month or two to dry and be ready. And then he came to pick it up the other day, and as he was about to go look at it, I had this sheer panic of what if it's total shit?
Right.
And,
yeah.
I mean, he's my friend, but at the same time, it was a commission piece, so he paid me. So I was like, what if I just made this total piece of dog shit, and he hates it, and he's going to just lie to my face that he likes it. But, that's just the way I am. That's the way my psychology is, unfortunately.
From his reaction, did he like it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, thankfully.
Well, congratulations on producing not shit.
Yes, thank you. Maybe my self-doubts aren't really, they don't really have it.
Founded.
Right. It could just be my own neuroses or whatever.
So I have to ask you, the best advice you ever got was that you should always have a book. You should always be reading.
Right.
Have you ever given that advice to anyone?
Yes, I actually, this whole thing is so perfect. Everything's lined up for today. I don't know why. Earlier this morning, I went and mailed out a letter and 3 books to my stepsister's daughter, who's sort of like my niece, I guess. Mm-hmm. And I just had found out through Facebook that I was invited to her graduation party, but due to she's out in Wellesley, and due to my incapability of driving at this point, I can't go. So I felt
Wellesley is far away from where you are.
It is. And, I even checked to see if I could Uber it, but that's a $45 one-way trip. So it's $90, $100 to even go see her. So I said, you know what? I'll write her a letter and I'll send her some books. And in the letter, I kind of go off on a whole thing about, you're 18 now, you're in the real world, or you're about to be in the real world. So what advice can I give you? And one of the big things I say in there is to read, to always read.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
What books did you send her?
The Tao Te Ching is one.
Good.
Run with the Hunted, a Charles Bukowski reader, which is basically just a bunch of his short stories, a bunch of his poems, and it's the way it's set up. It sort of gives you the story of his life, kind of biographical. So, and The Story of Philosophy by Will Durant.
I know that book. I have that kicking around here somewhere.
Yeah.
I also have the Tao Te Ching somewhere kicking around here too.
Yeah. Just the introduction alone is worth it. I don't know. when I opened that book and read the introduction, I was blown away. He describes in 2.5 pages how important and amazing philosophy is, and and he does it very artfully. And I was like, whoa. So those are the 3 books I sent her.
Well, you know what, Phil? Even though life doesn't put a bow on it and tie things up neatly, I think we just tied up this whole the best advice ever that you got and brought it all around to you bring it forward.
I try to. That's the best thing we can do, right? Is just pass on any of the knowledge we gain.
Yeah, that's about it. Well, Philip Kapitan, thank you for coming on the show. Tell people where they can find you online.
You can find the Hangover Haze show on any podcast player, or iTunes, Google Play, all that stuff. And if you want to watch it on YouTube, just search Hangover Haze, and it should come up.
And that is
send an email to hangoverhaze@gmail.com if you want to talk shit. That's cool too.
Fantastic. Well, we'll have you back on the Naked Dino podcast sometime. We'll just talk some more. We have an open door policy. You don't suck, and we'd like talking to people. Me and my co-host Jack Materko, who will be sober this time, my friend. Jack's about to have his first kid.
Ooh. You sure he's going to be sober then?
I don't know. I think when you first came, Jack was going through some stuff.
Understandable.
And so I mean, his soon-to-be wife might be having the kid right now, even as we speak. I don't know. I haven't checked in with him today, so that's where he is at. But thanks again for coming on. I will send it along.
Thank you, sir. This was great, and I wish you nothing but the best of success.
Thanks a lot. I had a lot of fun. I'll say that. It's difficult for me to say I had a lot of fun, because it's so unnatural. But I had a lot of fun.
Smile more, Andrew.
I should smile more. I gotta eat some more steak. That's it.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, brother. Take care.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye.